World War I, often called the Great War, was one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. It lasted from July 28, 1914 to November 11, 1918, and reshaped the world forever. Welcome to this deep dive into the war that claimed over 16 million lives, introduced terrifying new weapons, ended ancient empires, and set the stage for the 20th century's greatest tragedies. Whether you're studying history or just curious, let's walk through the causes, the key events, the horrors of the front lines, and the lasting impact. The war didn't start out of nowhere. By the early 1900s, Europe was a powder keg ready to explode. Historians often point to four main long-term causes, remembered by the acronym MAIN: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Militarism meant nations were building huge armies and navies, glorifying war. Germany and Britain were locked in a naval arms race, with Germany rapidly expanding its fleet to challenge British dominance. Alliances divided Europe into two camps. The Triple Alliance linked Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Opposing them was the Triple Entente: France, Russia, and Britain. These pacts meant a small conflict could quickly drag everyone in. Imperialism fueled rivalries over colonies in Africa and Asia. Germany felt left behind in the scramble for empire. Nationalism was especially explosive in the Balkans, called the powder keg of Europe. Slavic peoples wanted independence from Austria-Hungary. Serbia supported these groups, while Austria-Hungary feared losing control. The spark came on June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb nationalist tied to the Black Hand Group. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and issued an ultimatum. Serbia accepted most demands, but not all. On July 28, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. What followed was the July Crisis, a chain reaction. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia on August 1st, then on France, Russia's ally, on August 3rd. To attack France quickly, Germany invaded neutral Belgium on August 4th. This violated Belgian neutrality guaranteed by treaty, so Britain declared war on Germany. In weeks, Europe was at war. The Central Powers, Germany, Austria, Hungary, later the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, faced the Allies, or Entente powers: France, Britain, Russia, Serbia, and eventually many others. The war everyone expected to be short turned into a nightmare of stalemate. Germany's Schlieffen Plan aimed to knock out France in 6 weeks, then turn east against Russia. German troops swept through Belgium and northern France, committing atrocities that fueled Allied propaganda. But at the First Battle of the Marne in September 1914, French and British forces halted the advance. Both sides dug in, creating 400 miles of trenches from the North Sea to Switzerland. The Western Front became a symbol of futility. Trench warfare was brutal. Soldiers lived in mud-filled ditches facing rats, lice, trench foot, and constant shelling. No man's land between trenches was a deadly zone of barbed wire and craters. Machine guns, artillery, and later poison gas made attacks suicidal. Key battles defined the horror. In 1915, the Second Battle of Ypres saw the first major use of chlorine gas by Germany, causing panic and about 90,000 casualties from gas overall in the war. The Gallipoli Campaign, 1915-1916, aimed to knock the Ottoman Empire out, but failed disastrously for British Empire and Anzac forces, with over 250,000 casualties. 1916 brought two massive bloodbaths. At Verdun, Germans tried to bleed France white. The battle lasted 10 months, costing nearly 700,000 casualties with little gain. The Somme offensive saw Britain suffer 57,000 casualties on the first day alone, July 1st, 1916, the bloodiest in British military history. Over 1 million total casualties for a few miles of ground. 1917 was a turning point. Russia collapsed after the February and October revolutions. The Bolsheviks took power and signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in 2018, exiting the war and ceding huge territories to Germany. This freed German troops for the West, but America was entering. The U.S. stayed neutral at first under President Woodrow Wilson, but German unrestricted submarine warfare sank American ships, and the Zimmermann telegram, proposing a German-Mexican alliance against the U.S., outraged the public. America declared war on Germany on April 6, 1917. Fresh American troops arrived in 1918. Germany's spring offensive pushed close to Paris but exhausted their forces. Then the Allies, reinforced by over 2 million Americans, launched the 100 Days Offensive. Battles like Amiens, Saint-Mihiel, and the massive Meuse-Argonne, involving 1.2 million Americans, broke German lines. By late 1918, Germany faced mutinies, revolution at home, and collapse. Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated. An armistice was signed on November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, in a railcar in Compiègne Forest. The human cost was staggering. Military deaths totaled around 8.5 to 10 million, with another 20+ million wounded. Civilian deaths reached 6 to 13 million from famine, disease, genocide, like the Armenian genocide by the Ottomans, and war effects. Total deaths approached 20 million or more. Entire generations were scarred. The war ended 4 empires: German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman. New nations emerged: Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Finland, and the Baltic states. The map of Europe and the Middle East was redrawn. The 1919 Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept full blame, war guilt clause, lose territory, limit its military, and pay massive reparations. Many Germans saw it as humiliating. The treaty, along with economic chaos and resentment, planted seeds for future conflict. The League of Nations was created to prevent future wars, but without U.S. membership, Senate rejected it. It proved weak. World War I introduced horrors that defined modern warfare. Tanks, first used at the Somme, aircraft in combat, submarines, U-boats, machine guns, flamethrowers, and chemical weapons. It accelerated technology. Plastic surgery advanced for facial wounds, blood banks began, and women entered factories in huge numbers, changing society. It also inspired art, literature, and remembrance. Wilfred Owen's poetry, The Poppies of Flanders Fields, and Armistice Day, now Veterans Day. The war to end all wars didn't. Just 21 years later, World War II began. Many historians see the unresolved issues of 1918 as direct causes. World War I wasn't just battles. It was the end of an era of empires and the birth of our turbulent modern world. Lest we forget.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share for more.